Hey guys, so for many of you newcomers who this is their first DVD of yours by Barry, my name is Zach and I worked at Barnes & Noble from about 2011 to the beginning of 2014, and I have to say that it's one of the best working experiences of my entire life. And I decided to take the opportunity to move out to New York with my mom and dad, and now I'm out here doing what I enjoy doing, which is dealing with movies and acting in whatever way I can get into that. So I want to take these next few minutes to go over some people that I worked with I want to mention, and as it's on my little cheat sheet. So first I'm going to go over the awesome managers, starting with Jessica. You and I always had that type of relationship where we were able to joke around and be serious at the same time and get our work done. And one of the best things I remember was whenever you would have me helping out with Bargain, and you would explain something to me, and then like 2 minutes later I would have to ask you how to do it again because my mind just wasn't processing it. And I actually did that quite a few times, and I was always a little nervous to ask because I thought you were gonna like say like, I've told you how to do this like 1,000 times. But you know, we got along. We got along great. Gary, Gary, I remember when I first started working there, and I worked with you for the first time, and for some reason I just felt like you didn't like me. But then like a couple weeks later I was like, this is just this guy's sense of humor. Like he wants to come in, get what he has to get done, and just have it be an easy day. Which of course, me being the teenager, I was there to like, you know, get what I had to get done, but then also be talkative and wanting to hang out, and which maybe that's why there weren't that many young people working there, because I was the youngest. But you were always fun to work with. It was always an interesting time, whether it be when I had to dress up as a costume character and you bought me a drink afterwards, or whatever else. But it was always a fun time working with you. Brenda. I don't think I'll ever have a manager again where she has tiny little things for me to do for her. Like for you, it was always going and flipping the flippers on the door whenever we would open or close, or reaching a book for you, or going and trying to find a book that you've been trying to find for the past like 2 hours and you couldn't find it, and you said that you would get me a $2 drink from a cafe if I found it. But I don't think I'll ever have a manager like that again, where they ask me to do things for them. Specifically like little tasks like that keep me occupied. Barry, you were pretty much my movie buddy at Barnes & Noble. You and I would always be talking about movies, whether it be while we're working or when we're on break. No matter what, we'd always be talking about movies. And we shared a specific interest in the horror movie genre and how it's gone downhill over the years with all the remakes and reboots and sequels. And I don't think I ever had anybody like that was that interested in the same things that I was interested in. And you know, of course a lot of my friends were interested in that type of thing, but I mean, you taught me like some things from it. Like you taught me the whole jumping the shark deal, which is now when I watch movies I can easily tell when they start jumping the shark, which is hilarious. But yeah, whenever I would come in, you would always ask me, hey, have you seen any new movies? And I would always either have a really good answer or I would say no because I was busy with other things, and that, you know, that killed the conversation. Last but not least, because if you were the least one, you'd probably backtrack time and make it so I wasn't hired. Barb, you are the reason why I technically got my job, because I remember when I was 13 and I met you through April, and you had me fill out an application right then and there, and you said come back when you're 16 and, you know, we'll hire you. So I was working at Menards for a little bit, and then I came in one day on my break and I was like, look, you gotta get me out of there. I can't do it. I can't stay there anymore. It's crazy. So you had me fill out another application, and you said, okay, you have an interview tomorrow. Which I'm not sure if you're supposed to put pressure on someone like that, because you were like, here's everything about the Nook, learn about it, and you're going to be interviewed about it the next day. And I was like, okay. So you are the reason why I got the job, and I cannot thank you enough for giving me the opportunity, because if you didn't, I would probably still be at Menards or whatever other place that I would have ended up working at, which, you know, wouldn't be as good. Barnes & Noble's the best place to work in Bourbonnais, or Kankakee as some people say. But, so yes, Barb, I'm gonna miss you a lot. And I remember when I said, it was a couple weeks before my last day, and I said, you know, I hope that, you know, I have another manager that's as cool as you, and you were like, no, probably not. So that rounds up all of my awesome managers. And next I'm gonna go into just a few just a few members of the bookseller crew that that became a huge part of my life. Which if I don't talk about it, you don't feel bad. It's just this video is gonna run crazy time. The first person that I want to talk about is Gigi. The first time when we met, I remember, it was when I think it was maybe your first day, and Barb was walking you around the store to kind of show you where everything was, and you guys stopped by the humor section, and I was walking past the humor section, and Barb stopped me. She said, Zach, Gigi, Zach, the humor section looks god awful. Can you fix it? And so that's kind of when we started our little thing, because I remember when Barb walked off and we were sitting on the ground putting the books together, and I looked at you and I said, yeah, it may seem like she's in a bad mood right now, but believe me, she's hilarious, she's awesome. And you looked at me and you were like, really? I was like, yeah, she is. So I remember that day perfectly clear, and from that day we became really close, and we would go to movies, and you know, we would talk about your number 1, your number 2, your number 3, your number 4, and your occasional number 5, but just remember that I'll always be the number 3 or 2, depending on which one drops out first. Amy. Awesome. Amy. We have the same relationship that Barry and I do. We're always talking about movies, except you and Barry shared a really common interest in like comics and stuff, and I just couldn't get into that, but still, we always talk about our awesome horror movies and how excited we were about them. Okay, so we're gonna jump over to events, such as like story time and characters, which for you new people in Barnes & Noble, if you ever walk into the back on your, you know, when you're coming onto a shift, and you ever walk into the break room and Barb looks at you and says, oh, there's our little, and it's a certain character like Arthur or Clifford or Curious George, just know that you are being put into that costume. Because I walked in, and it had to have been maybe 3 weeks maybe after I started working there, and I walked in back, and Barb looked at me and she said, oh, there's our little Clifford. And it didn't process in my mind, only because I didn't know that it was story time with kids. And it was just, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be, because those costumes can get really hot, really hot. Because I dressed up in them 3 times as Curious George, Clifford, and Arthur, which I always thought he was a bear, and then Barb told me he was an aardvark. After Clifford, I started volunteering myself to go into these things, which Curious George was the worst, but yeah. I have a job here now as a bartender at a winery, and it's just me and one other person, because nobody else works there, so it's just me and the manager. So I'm working every weekend, and then in the summer we're gonna be open 7 days a week. But then in the fall, as I said, I'm gonna be leaving to go to college. But I'm never ever going to forget this the experience I had at Barnes & Noble. It's too big of a memory to forget. You know, I had some ups and downs through those past 3 years, and whenever I came into work and I looked a little upset, or I tried to hide it from people, you know, when you work with them for a certain amount of time, like, they just know. And they would always be trying to cheer me up, and they would do their best to have it be where I have a really good day at work. And I can't tell you guys how much I appreciate all of that. You know, some of you know that I went through a really tough time at one point, and you guys were always there by my side to help me out, and you guys always asked if I needed anything. And now, being away from all that, it's a little bit more difficult to you know, to smile if I'm having a bad day. But then I go ahead and go back to all of that, all those awesome memories, and I rewatch all the DVDs that Barry made for us, and it's just, Barnes & Noble was pretty much like home to me for a job. Everyone there is family, and that's one thing that's never going to change. That's always going to be my home job. And you know, for hopefully all of you, it's the same exact thing. So I just wanted to make this video and tell you guys how much I miss all of you, and that at some point I will be coming back to visit all of you, which I already have once, but I plan to make some more trips back, because you know, Illinois is home, and so is Barnes & Noble. So I miss you guys. Bye.
Can't hold it back anymore. Let it go, let it go. Turn my back and slam the door. And I hear